So when you're talking about the actual brain itself, and being a former neurosurgeon, we used to do awake brain surgery. And once you numb the skull and numb the skin, you can get down and actually operate on the brain when someone's awake and they don't feel anything.
Welcome to the Rebel Health Coach Podcast with Tom Underwood. Armed with truth and knowledge, your journey to a healthy lifestyle can be obtained. Preventative wellness, quality nourishment, and daily fitness routines dramatically improve your outlook on life as a whole. And you'll find the support and info you need to accomplish a healthier lifestyle here. Together, we can empower each other along our journey to an amazing you.
On today's episode of the Rebel Health Coach Podcast, I am joined today by Dr. Harrison Frank, and he is the medical director for PEA, and he is also the founder of the Frank Institute for Health and Wellness. Dr. Harrison Frank, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk to you.
And today we are going to dig into palmitoylethanolamide.
PEA is much easier.
Or I'll call it PEA for the rest of the show.
All right, perfect.
Take a minute and tell the listeners about yourself and a little bit about your background. I know that you were a basketball player.
I was. Well, I'll start, I guess, kind of from the beginning, so to speak. I was born and raised in Chicago. Very excited for the Final Four right now, as Loyola Chicago is in the Final Four for the first time since '62, I think.
And they are playing my team, the Michigan Wolverines.
My next door neighbor graduated undergrad from Michigan, and so we're having a little neighborly dispute. But and then I went from graduated high school, and you're right, played basketball for the University of Wisconsin at Stevens Point. After that, I actually played 3 years of professional basketball.
Okay.
From there, I went to Jefferson Medical College in Philadelphia. After graduating Jeff, I actually matched as a neurosurgeon at Wake Forest University. Left that, did a fellowship in neurorehabilitation, and opened the Frank Institute here in Wilmington, North Carolina, almost 3 years ago.
And Wilmington's a beautiful city.
It is. Actually, I'm looking out my window right now, and the sun is shining. There are palm trees. It's beautiful.
Wilmington's a beautiful city. Today, we're going to talk about PEA. And the reason I wanted you on this topic is because we have a lot of people out there that are fighting chronic inflammation. A lot of people walking around popping nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs or NSAIDs. And worse yet, a lot of people popping opioids. And we have an opioid epidemic, in my opinion.
In a lot of people's opinion.
And there's a better way. So let's dig in. What exactly is PEA?
So PEA, palmitoylethanolamide, is actually a substance that's produced by our body in response to inflammation. A lot, as is issues with a lot of the things in our Western diet, we have, because of the way we live, we have overwhelmed our body's ability to naturally fight inflammation. So it results in a lot of different issues, results in chronic pain, results in chronic inflammatory state. It results in a lot of chronic diseases, diabetes, heart disease. Instead of looking at the root cause and saying, hey, maybe we should change our lifestyle, maybe we should change the way we eat, people have been turning to medications, the ones you said, NSAIDs, opioids, to deal with some of this chronic inflammation. So what PEA is basically an additional or exogenous way to give your body more of the natural inflammatory fighting molecules in your body.
Okay. PEA is found in the body naturally, correct?
That's correct.
Now, can PEA be found in foods?
Not really. I should say not something that's found in significant enough quantities.
Okay. How does PEA do what it does for chronic inflammation? What is the role in pain?
That is an extremely detailed question. I will not. So basically what it does is palmitoylethanolamide interacts with receptors in the body, and there's a couple different ones. And it interacts with these receptors, and it basically shuts off or slows down or stops the inflammatory cascade within the body. So you're basically turning it off at the source. It's like going up to let's say you have a hose that's flooding your yard. Or rather than try and kink it, or rather than try and address it further downstream, basically what you should do is you should go to the spigot and turn the spigot off. And that's basically what palmitoylethanolamide does, is it turns off that spigot of the inflammatory response.
And does this work on the endocannabinoid system?
It does.
Okay. So given that, when CBD oil is a lot of the rage right now, how does the P work into the endocannabinoid system?
So it not only works in that system, it works in a couple others as well. And so what CBD oil does is it works in the cannabinoid receptor line. Palmitoylethanolamide works synergistically with CBD on the CBD receptors, or the CB1, the CB2 receptors, but it also works in other pathways as well. So while, CBD oil is excellent and works very well, it's a little bit limited in its effectiveness throughout the body. But palmitoylethanolamide can be effective in a much more widespread net of receptors, and so you get a lot better efficacy with PEA.
How does P protect the brain?
Basically, what it does is it again interacts with those receptors in order to decrease the inflammatory response in the brain. I actually gave a Facebook talk last week talking about this exact thing and talking about how the inflammatory response in the brain is not interpreted as pain. So when you're talking about the actual brain itself, and being a former neurosurgeon, we used to do awake brain surgery. And once you numb the skull and numb the skin, you can get down and actually operate on the brain when someone's awake and they don't feel anything. Wow. Now, that's not to say that you don't have a inflammatory response within the brain. So that's where PEA really works, is it focuses on stopping that inflammatory response.
How did this become PEA?
So palmitoylethanolamide was discovered, almost 70 years ago. One of the issues with, for lack of a better way, commercializing this was finding large enough quantities and being able to produce large enough quantities and being able to produce a quality that was appropriate. And that's what PEA has done, is it's been able to produce a quality of palmitoylethanolamide that no one else can.
Okay.
And that's really what makes PEA different than some of the other PEA supplements out there.
Is PEA safe?
It is safe because palmitoylethanolamide is a substance that's naturally found in your body. There at this time are no known drug interactions and no known side effects. There are over 350 research studies that support this.
PEA also can help manage other diseases. What diseases are you finding that PEA helps manage?
I mean, it can manage any disease that is a result of inflammatory response,
which is a lot. So, I mean, just to give you a couple, and one that's really hot right now is depression. I read a study looking at citalopram and supplementing palmitoylethanolamide, and you had a significant decrease in the depression symptoms on what would be a lower dose of the SSRI. So you're able to get better effect with less medication. So that's just one example. But you can look at any sort of inflammatory response, diabetes, heart disease. We focus a lot on patients with inflammatory arthritis, whether it's rheumatoid arthritis or osteoarthritis, any kind of a neuropathic issue, small fiber neuropathy, fibromyalgia. And that's really where you're trying to, when it comes to the nerves, you're trying to really stabilize those cells. Can PEA help reverse chronic inflammation causing the pain?
Can it reverse it? Not in the way I think you're asking.
Okay. With diet and PEA, because we both know that diet, our human diet today is full of inflammatory stuff. I mean, if you walk through the grocery store and look at people's carts, a majority of the carts are full of processed foods that cause inflammation. So if you add PEA and change your diet, and with somebody with chronic pain, will that help reverse it?
It won't reverse it. It will stop the cascade. It basically will stop the production of those inflammatory markers and therefore reduce the pain. Now, let's say in rheumatoid arthritis, if you have what are called tophi, or if you have breakdown of the joint, it's not going to rebuild the joint, but it's going to stop the inflammatory response. So will it reverse it? No, but will it heal it? I guess that may be a better word. Yes.
Can PEA help with mast cell activation disorder?
It's that mast cell, and that's that inflammatory response. Okay. Yes.
We're beating the same bush on inflammatory.
Yeah, and that's really where, if you think about 95% of the disease processes,
right,
they have to do with inflammatory response. Now, mast cell, again, one of those pathways that PEA works on is the mast cell cascade. And so you can treat mast cell disease, and we have several patients that use our supplement with mast cell disease and have seen significant improvement in their symptoms.
Is this a supplement you recommend to your patients to take on a regular basis, given different circumstances?
Yes. I mean, not only my patients, I take it. Both of my brothers take it. My father takes it. This is something that I recommend almost across the board. Obviously, you have to evaluate each individual patient.
Right.
There are many, many, many patients that are taking this.
And there's no side effects?
Not that I have seen, not that have been documented.
Okay. You also created Liposomal PEA.
Yes.
So go into briefly what Liposomal PEA is compared to the PEA capsules.
A liposome is a hydrophilic or a water-scared molecule. So it forms this little ball. And what we have done with taking PEA and putting it within this liposomal ball is it is directly delivered to the cells. Now, PEA or any other kind of medication or anything else you take has to be transported across the cell. And to get in a little bit of cell membrane physiology, those receptors, you have a certain finite amount of receptors. And so you have a finite amount of material that can be moved across at any time. By incorporating the PEA within the liposome has the same material as the cell wall. So instead of going through the receptors, it literally meshes with the cell wall and immediately releases what's in the liposome, in this case, the PEA, directly into the cell. So you can get a better delivery system, better absorption.
That's a valuable option then for getting it directly into the cell and stopping it faster.
Yeah, and that's it. And some people don't have as good a response with the oral PEA, and so we go, or I should say, with the pill form. And so we recommend the liposomal. There are some people who do fantastically with the pill form and don't need the liposomal, but it's a good secondary option for significantly increased absorption.
Okay. Now, on the liposomal side, what are you using to get it? What are you using to transport it?
No, yeah, we use a soy-based product. That's a lot of the liposomals that are produced around the world use a very similar type of medium.
Okay. And is that a liquid form?
Yeah, that's a liquid form. I tell my patients it's to keep it in the fridge because it tastes a little better. It's a viscous material,
right?
So I've found that if you keep it in the fridge, sometimes it's a little easier.
It's a little easier to stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah. To sign up for my monthly newsletter, text RHCP, that's Rebel Health Coach Podcast, or Red Hot Chili Peppers, to 22828. Again, that's RHCP to 22828. Thank you and have an awesome day. Now, I want to hit on the opioid.
Yeah.
Because I watched a lot of your videos on Facebook, and I am going to put a link to your PEA Facebook page in my show notes because you do quite a lot of videos. And I enjoy them myself greatly. For other people to watch them, it would benefit greatly from watching them. And also, you have some amazing blogs that I will include in the show notes for PEA. But as we discussed a little bit in the intro to the show, that opioids in America are on the rise, and most opioids are prescribed, like, in my opinion, like M&Ms by physicians. And I'm not going to bash physicians, but it's something that we need to stop because I know some people have lost their lives to opioids. And I think that PEA can actually be a benefit to people who are on opioids to get off them. So expand a little bit on the opioids and the PEA for me, please.
Well, unfortunately, being here in Wilmington, North Carolina, it must have been maybe 3 years ago now, a story came out in USA Today saying that Wilmington, North Carolina was the opioid capital of the world. Now, that was not the kind of publicity you want for a wonderful beach town like this.
Right.
But what it says was very interesting. And I actually was involved in a pain management practice, managed it, and tried to do a lot of these, I wouldn't say alternative treatments, but I tried to get patients that came to my office to wean down off opioids. And it was very, very, very difficult to get patients to do that for a multitude of reasons. Now, the problem, the whole opioid issue started because physicians were trying to treat something that is very difficult to quantify. So someone comes in and you ask them what their pain level is. My pain level could be a 4. This person's pain level could be a 2. This person's pain level could be an 8, all with the same amount of pain. So doctors were trying to prescribe some medications to give patients some quality of life. Unfortunately, it went awry, and you had a lot of doctors that didn't really have a good understanding of these opioid medications prescribing large doses of opioids. And so you get this snowball effect of patients who become dependent on these medications. Now, unfortunately, there are a good number of patients that truly need these medications to maintain a quality of life. Those good patients are mixed in with all the patients that make things difficult. And so what's happened is now this opioid issue has gotten so out of control that they're just ratcheting down on everything. And unfortunately, in order to get this under control, that's what has to happen. But there's another secondary problem is as the opioids, the prescription opioids are being cut off, so to speak, this is opening the door for a lot of heroin use. And not only a lot of heroin use, but a lot of heroin use that's laced with really dangerous stuff like fentanyl.
Right.
And so you're getting, you have this opioid epidemic, so to speak, of prescription opioids that has now shifted into this illicit opioid disaster. And so now patients are getting wise to this and say, hey, I don't even want to go on opioids to begin with. I want to know what else can I do? And that's really what I do with the Frank Institute is manage the lifestyle, is what can you do in your life to treat the underlying cause of the disease, treat the inflammation.
Right.
That's the rub, is that trying to get patients to do that. Patients who are on opioids, it's very, very difficult to do that. You have to have someone who is very motivated to wean off of these medications. Things like PEA are invaluable in that process. They're also really invaluable in preventative and stopping people from getting onto the opioids in the first place.
Where can people find PEA?
So PEA right now is available through our website. It's just PEA.com. We are in the process of reaching out to distributors within the United States to have a more local presence. That is actively going on right now. We're signing people up on a daily rate because this is such a beneficial supplement that people want to have this in their arsenal to offer to their patients.
Yeah, I signed up myself, so I'm working. Yeah, because I think it's a great alternative. I know a lot of people that are in severe pain that, like, I have one friend that fell off a ladder, and to get off the opioids is just be amazing for them.
And I've had patients come to my office, and with the treatments that I do here, which is part of which is PEA, I've gotten people completely off of their opioids.
That's amazing.
It was a struggle, to be honest with you, but they are completely off. There have been patients that I have been able to wean down to maybe 1 a day when they were taking 6 to 8.
Wow.
And but these are very motivated patients.
Do you think it takes motivation on the patient's part to get off them?
Absolutely.
So we've got to talk about the whole ball game here.
Yeah.
Since you're a basketball player, one person can't carry the team. But somebody coming in with pain, first we need to manage the inflammation on top of adding a substance or a supplement like PEA.
It's not going to be a comfortable thing to wean people off of the opioid.
Right.
And you have to, when I say you have to have someone motivated, you have to have someone that's motivated to try and take care of themselves.
Right.
So many chronic pain patients can be overweight due to lack of exercise, due to a multitude of, some of these patients can't work, so there's financial constraints. But you have to take a look at the entire person. Like you said, one person cannot carry a team, and so you just can't rely on one thing. You have to take this multifactorial approach to it. And to do that multifactorial approach, it does take a lot of input from the patient. And so that's why I say you have to have a motivated patient.
Right.
You'd be surprised how many people are motivated when you say, hey, look, I think we can get you off this stuff, or at least we can significantly reduce it by using X, Y, and Z protocol. That gets people's attention.
Right. And I mean, I think when people are struggling with the pain that they're in, they're pretty motivated.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, a lot of people don't like to change their diets, but that's part of it.
You have to, because if you're constantly fueling the inflammatory fire with food, I think I said this in my last talk.
Right.
I live about 3 or 4 miles from my office. There are a half a dozen fast food places between here and my house.
Yes.
And Wilmington is a healthy town. Well, this is a very healthy town. And there's, so you have a multitude of opportunities to eat unhealthy. But in that same stretch of road, there's also a fresh market. There's also a food place here called Epic Foods, which is absolutely fantastic, that produces healthy foods. There's, places like Clean Eats, who offers very healthy pre-made meals. But you have to be motivated to stop at these healthy places versus hit the drive-through.
Exactly.
And so that's it's almost a paradigm shift. Just as we're having a paradigm shift when it comes to opioids, you have to have a paradigm shift when it comes to lifestyle changes.
Right.
And it's just, it's like pulling teeth. I mean, my dad is a perfect example. My dad played the NBA in the 60s, is eaten up with arthritis. And while he has always eaten good, just to trying to get him to take the PEA cure was at sometimes difficult. But once he has, his doctor had given him small doses of Percocet. And I said, get away from that. This is what we're going to do. We're going to make these changes to your lifestyle. He and my mom were very healthy. But we added the PEA cure, and he doesn't even I don't think he's got a prescription fill for his opioids in a year and a half. That's great. So he's 81.
Right.
But he looks like he and my mom look like they're 20 years younger because they take good care of themselves. But he's much more active now. He feels better. He's got the back, he's got the knee, he's got the foot, he's got the shoulder. All these things are being treated with the PEA cure. It's successful.
Is there anything you want to leave us with before I ask my final question?
If there's one thing that I can impart to people, and I always try to do this in my talks as well, is that you are responsible for your health. Now, there are unfortunate accidents. There are things that happen that people have that they just get dealt a bad hand and they have to deal with it. But you have to take responsibility for your own health. And, part of that falls on us as physicians. You can't impart healthy living and health and wellness to someone if you have 6 minutes with them. I'm very lucky. My practice here, my office slots are a half hour, and I get to sit down and really talk to my patients. I encourage people to find doctors that can do that.
Right.
There are doctors like what I do all over the country. And take responsibility for your health. Find a doctor who's truly engaged in helping you and not just coming in and writing you 4 prescriptions. Now, that's not to say that there's not value in that, because there are physicians that do that do a tremendous job. But there needs to be, again, a paradigm shift in the way we live, the way we think, and the way we deliver medicine.
Yeah.
And that's really what I'm trying to do here in my practice, in my little corner of Wilmington. And I think that if we have people who go to physicians saying, hey, look, I want things different, the physicians will appreciate that and will want to help.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I appreciate you taking the time with me today. If you could get me, I'll put any links that you can give me in the show notes I know that Facebook page link, because I highly recommend people watch your videos because they're very good. I love them myself.
Thank you.
And I'll put the link for PEA cure in there. And if you had 30 minutes to 30 minutes to an hour to kill, what album or artist would you listen to?
That's funny because there's always music playing. So despite being from Chicago, I'm a big fan of country music.
Okay.
I'm a big Dierks Bentley fan. I love Dierks Bentley. Obviously, a huge Garth Brooks fan. We have music playing in our practice, and back here in my private office, there's country music going. At home, we're cooking, we're playing, whatever. I'm playing with my kids. We're doing whatever. There's country music. So that's really my genre.
Awesome. I like country music myself. So thank you very much, Dr. Frank.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on. If your listeners have questions, please have them feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to talk to them. And thank you again. I enjoyed it, and I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining in today with the Rebel Health Coach, Tom Underwood. And be sure to subscribe to the show so you can catch all the episodes. With desire and commitment, you can implement a lifestyle of wellness and fitness. For the support, encouragement, and tools you need to be successful, visit tomunderwood.net.